everyone, and welcome to this video where we're going to be learning how to use and organize a series of some of the best prompts that will help us generate detailed and specific information as well as an outline for our research. We're also going to be reviewing some important strategies that will help us in any prompting exercise, but specifically for research, and looking at the step-by-step process that we developed in this video that will help us get the most out of our prompting for our literature reviews, but we'll do that at the end, so make sure you stick to the end where we'll go through all these steps. Okay, so the first thing that we need to do is to start a new chat. So if you see here right at the top on the left-hand side, we've got a square with a little pen mark and it says new chat. So if you're not already on a new chat, then make sure that you click on that and it will take you to a brand new chat. And the reason we do this is that we can have a thread that is just focused on the topic that we're going to be working on with ChatGPT. It doesn't include all our previous questions, and so that ChatGPT doesn't get confused and starts to integrate them in the responses. And then the other thing it means is that later on, when you want to build on this information, you can just find this thread on the left-hand side and then go back to it, and then ChatGPT can start to remember what you have previously inputted and use that information. So this is step number one. Okay, so we're going to start off with an initial exploration of the topic, and we're going to use 4 prompts for this, but we're going to use them one by one. So I'm going to copy the first prompt, which I'll add it into ChatGPT. And if we go through it, it says identify the current trends, developments, and future directions in your topic. And my topic is online collaborative learning in higher education. Okay, so then I'm going to enter that. And then you're going to see that ChatGPT provides that its information is from January 2022, and it will start adding some of these trends and developments. So we've got increased integration of social learning platforms, use of virtual reality, gamification of learning, personalized learning experiences, and so on. So all really current, relevant topics. Okay, go into the second prompt. Now, what are the emerging trends in your literature on your topic? So I'm going to take that into ChatGPT as well. And as we said, my topic is online collaborative learning in higher education. So I'm just going to add that instead of your topic. Okay. And you'll see that when we put in emerging trends, it does return different responses to the general developments. Okay, so here for emerging trends, it's focusing on peer interaction and social presence. It's also focusing on interaction or integration of artificial intelligence, exploration of collaborative problem solving skills, mobile, innovative assessment methods. So it's always good to enter that second prompt as well, so you get this wide overview of the topic. And move on to the third prompt, which is identify and explain common themes in literature on your topic. Okay, and as we mentioned, we always add in the specific topic so that we make sure that it returns the relevant information. There's themes here around the different pedagogical approaches to online collaborative learning. And so things like instructional strategies, such as problem-based learning and project-based learnings. And I'm already starting to think, okay, maybe that's an area, that's a theme that I want to be focusing on. Maybe that will be a direction that I choose for my research question. It also tells me, okay, focus on technological tools and platforms. Maybe there's something that's interesting here that I could look into, like the various writing tools or other software that could be important, and so on. So you can see these are the big themes and topics, and it gives me an overview of why this theme is important and some specific topics within that theme. Okay, and so now I'm going to go on to the fourth question in this section, which is what are the different perspectives or schools of thought in the literature on online collaborative learning? So I'm going to add that here into my chat. Okay, and we're going to see that it starts to give me the big schools of thought. So we've got constructivism, we've got social constructivism, we've got connectivism, we've got community of inquiry, which is a huge one in online collaborative learning. We've got activity theory, design-based research, critical pedagogy. And then again, I can start to read into all these different perspectives and see, and I'm starting to build an idea of what are the main, what's the main background information. So with this initial section, we've done our initial exploration. We've understood some of the emerging trends. We've understood some of the school of thoughts. We've understood the emerging direction. We're starting to get a feel for what is in our field. And this is really important. Just to note that I will be leaving you this document as downloadable in the description, so you can follow with your own prompts and you can extract it from the document. Now with the next step, we're going to start to be more specific, and the next step involves adding in some of our own specific studies and recent information. And you need to realize that, especially if you're using ChatGPT 3.5, the amount of knowledge has stopped at a certain point, and so you need to infuse it with additional information. And what we're going to do in this step is we're going to go out of ChatGPT and we're going to find, you can use Google Scholar, and you need to search for a recent systematic review on the topic that you are looking into. Okay, so that's what I've put in my search box so that you can see. And for example, I found a really good one here, which is Collaborative Learning in Higher Education in the Fourth Industrial Revolution. And it's a systematic literature review and future research, and it's published in 2023, and it's a good journal. So this is actually a perfect find. So I've already opened this, and what I'm going to do, I'm just showing you that this is the study. Okay, so we're going to scroll all the way down. And so for our purposes, the section that we need is the gaps and future research section and the conclusion. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this section here. And remember, we're just using it as information to supplement ChatGPT's knowledge. And so that we're taking the recent findings from a very relevant study and we're adding it here in ChatGPT. So I'm just going to paste that here into the box, with all that information here in the box. And just be careful, because if you add too much information, ChatGPT will say, it can't process all that information, so you have to reduce it. So just take chunks. If it's a big amount of information that you want to add, make sure you break it down into chunks. And before we submit, obviously we haven't asked it to do anything yet, we've just added the information. So we need to add this prompt, which says, integrate this information in your knowledge on the subject and add some more common themes, discussions, and directions based on the below. Okay, so now we've directed it to update its knowledge as well. We've taken the information from the latest systematic review, and now I can input it. And then what you'll see is it's added some of the latest findings. So it's taken out the empirical studies on student perceptions, and it's indicated the literature highlights the importance of these empirical studies and specifically student perceptions on collaborative learning. It's talking about integration of technology, the challenges and strategies in virtual collaborative learning, and it gives us some information based on this study. It's talking about comparative studies in teaching models, and all the information has been extracted, obviously, from the chunk that we've just pasted in, and this will make it more specific in detailing our topic as we move along. Okay, and for the next section, we're now going to be focusing on generating specific research questions and the purpose. And we're going to use 3 prompts for this. So I'm going to copy in the first prompt in this section, and then we're going to go through it. So before I submit it, I'm just going to go through it with you. And in this prompt, we're going to do something which is, you might have heard about this in ChatGPT before, but it's very important. You're going to assign it a role. You're going to say, I want you to act as an expert academic researcher in, and then add your topic or your field or whatever you want to research, and suggest 5 pivotal research questions that address how online collaborative learning can, and then use the right word for you, could impact or affect or advance. We use all of them. Higher education. Try and give it the 2, variables. So for me, it's online collaborative learning, and then how it's affecting higher education, or if you don't have any specific variables, it's fine. You can just say impact the field, whatever suits your purposes. Okay, and now we're going to submit that, and then based on that, we're now going to have 5 different important questions. And remember, it's taken all of the above information, including the ones that we have added, to generate these 5 questions. So let's have a look at the questions and let's see if they actually make sense. So the first one is, how does the integration of online collaborative learning strategies impact student engagement, satisfaction, and learning outcomes in higher education settings compared to traditional face-to-face instruction? Okay, and this is a good question actually, because the engagement, satisfaction, and learning outcomes is a big area. However, I feel like it's an area that's been tackled quite a lot. So let's see if the other questions give us, some better directions. What are the key determinants of successful online collaborative learning experiences in higher education, and how do they vary across disciplines, student populations? Okay, so another interesting question. You can also look at the different characteristics. How can online collaborative learning be effectively integrated into the curriculum and instructional practices? Okay, and this is a really good one, because we found earlier that one of the key areas was all about the instructional practices, and it came up in the emerging trends, it came up in the future directions. So instructional practices and relating to 21st century skills could be really important. So that would be one to consider. What ethical considerations and challenges associated with online collaborative learning? Okay, another interesting one. How can emerging technologies such as artificial intelligence, augmented reality be leveraged and enhanced? This is another excellent one. So we're now focusing on mainly 3 and 5. But before we actually choose which research question we want to go ahead with, let's go into the next one. And the next one tries to get ChatGPT to be a bit more specific. As you've seen, some of these research questions, although they are directed to our topic, they can be a bit broad. So let's see if we can try and get it to be even more specific by saying, by giving it this prompt: could you suggest specific, narrowly focused research questions in online collaborative learning in higher education? And let's see what it comes back with. Okay. And so the first one we have: how does the frequency and quality of peer feedback exchange in online collaborative learning environments impact individual student learning outcomes? What are the most effective strategies for fostering group cohesion and interpersonal relationships? I really like this one. Maybe the first one is a bit too specific. Maybe it is just, if you want to go down quantitative and observation, so maybe it's not something that I'd be interested in. But the second one is really good. What are the most effective strategies for fostering group cohesion? So then we would be looking at strategies in terms of the group. We'd be looking at even strategies related to teaching strategies. We're looking at across different disciplines. So this number 2 would be really interesting. To what extent does the design of asynchronous online collaborative learning activities influence student participation and engagement? This is another excellent one, by the way, because here we're focusing on a specific niche area in online collaborative learning areas. I've started to, from all the above information, I've focused on the asynchronous type of learning, which is really helpful. I could then go down that track, building my literature in this specific area and so on. So I think the specific questions are actually quite good. I would definitely look further and explore these topics before going ahead with one of them. But for our purposes, let's just say I went ahead with question 2 as my research question. And I did the research and I read around the topic and I found it was actually a really interesting topic. Maybe I'll refine it further, but for our purposes, just to move along, we'll go ahead with research question 2. And once we've decided, we will then we'll use this third prompt in this section by saying, focusing on research question 2, which is the one I've chosen. Okay, can you define a specific purpose that will guide the literature review and determine the scope? Now you'll notice till now, we have just been exploring, we've been looking, we've been integrating different sources and information. We have not started with our literature review, because that's, in order for you to start and do a good literature review, you have to have a strong research question. You have to have a clear direction. You have to have a clear purpose. And what we're doing with these prompts that are leading up to it is guiding us towards that. Once we have a strong research question and we've defined our purpose, then we can start putting together the detailed literature review. But before that, if I just ask ChatGPT, can you give me an outline for a literature review on online collaborative learning? It's just going to be very generic. So now I'm going to input this question. Okay, and now what it's done for me is it's helped guide me with a specific purpose for my question: to identify and analyze the most effective strategies employed in higher education for fostering group cohesion and nurturing interpersonal relationship among online learners. So basically, it's just taken that question and just made it clear for me so that I have specific keywords and specific direction when I come to look at the literature, when I come to search. I know I'm going to be looking at most effective strategies, higher education, I'm looking at group cohesion, I'm looking at nurturing interpersonal relationships, and so on. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the next section, which is now going to be focusing on the specific literature and the theories and the disagreements, the gaps, the controversies based on our specific research question. So we'll go on and take the next prompt. Okay, and this reads, can you provide an overview of the main theories and concepts on, okay, I'm just going to remove that part, focusing specifically on research question 2. Okay, and then let's see what it comes back with. So here, now remember, I've focused my research question. And so what I'm going to get here is that I'm going to get the relevant theories related to not just online collaborative learning and higher education in general, but specifically focusing on the effective strategies for fostering group cohesion. And so we can see, so there's social presence theory, there's community of inquiry framework, group development theories, because we want to look at social cohesion, social learning theory, interpersonal relationship theories. And so what I've done now is that instead of getting a whole body of literature and theories that could be related to online collaborative learning, but not the specific ones related to my research question, I've made myself focus on the most relevant ones. And so I can go on and research these further and read and find articles on them, but at least it's directed me and saved me a lot of time by not having to go through the whole entire broad literature. Okay, so the next question that we have here is that now we want to look at some of the disagreements within these topics. So I'm just going to go here, go back, so and add this prompt. So what are the disagreements in, and let's just be a bit focused as well, in this literature for research question 2. Okay. So some of the disagreements is the effectiveness of structured versus unstructured interactions, the role of technology in building social presence, the impact of instructor presence and facilitation. And again, I'm getting specific disagreements that are related to such question. So when I'm looking for literature, I can actually go back and search for, for articles or studies that have looked at the effectiveness of structured versus unstructured interactions. And I can see what the studies are saying. And I can say that there's been some researchers who've argued about how to use structured collaborative activities. It just gives me an insight of what are the main themes and disagreements. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the next question, which is, what are the key findings and conclusions from the most recent studies? As well, it's always good to see what are the main findings, because that will help us again to see if we can build on that. So, and then you'll notice that as a disclaimer, it says as my last update in January 2022, and then this is the most ones, the latest ones that I have. So, effectiveness of structured collaborative activities, importance of social presence, role of technology, challenges and barriers to collaboration, and so on. Remember that as we did above, in order for us to have more recent information, we can always add and provide ChatGPT with information, and then ask it questions based on that as well. But this is just as a general guide. Okay, so now we move on to the next one with, can you provide a summary of the historical background and evolution of the research above? And that's good as well. It's just to get an idea of how it's flowed and how it's developed over time. And we can integrate that in the introduction as well. Okay, so and you can see here that it's broken it up into the early developments and probably wouldn't go, maybe we wouldn't go as far back. But if I wanted to have an extremely comprehensive review, maybe if this is, you're writing maybe more extensively for a dissertation and you want to look in detail about the developments, you could start with the evolution historical development. Then you can look at the emergence of online learning platforms, and then you can focus on integration and engagement. And look how here it's given me the focus based on my research question as well, not just a general overview of the development, okay, and so on. Okay, so now I think we have completed this section, and you can see now we're moving now to the section where we actually look and generate an extensive detailed outline. All the previous work has been leading up to this, okay? And it's been helping us identify the main areas and get familiar with our topic. And now for us to develop a specific, extensive outline, based on all the information above, based on everything that ChatGPT has learned related to our topic, we're going to get a much more specific and relevant outline that will hopefully guide us in writing the in-depth literature review. Okay, so now I'm going to take this prompt and I will go through it once we've pasted it, which says, based on all the responses above and focusing on research question 2, which is our research question, and it's the same basic prompt again. I want you to create a detailed outline for the literature review that is well structured and highlights trends and gaps in the research and has a thematic structure. The reason I add the last part is that so that it can guide it to put it in a way that flows, that builds on the previous parts. Okay, so let me just submit that. Okay, and you'll see that now it's again generated an outline that's a lot more specific than I would get for if I just asked it to create an outline from the beginning. And if we look at the different sections, we can see that it's given us obviously the introduction, which is quite generic. But then we've got the theoretical frameworks that are associated with that specific research question. And, you wouldn't necessarily use all these theoretical frameworks, but these are the relevant ones, and I'm sure you could find others as well, but it just gives you a general direction, and you would need to go back and read and find out the most relevant one in terms of what you want to do with your study. But this is a very good starting point. And then it shows the historical evolution, especially related to the research question. So it's focusing on early studies and group dynamics, and then the emergence of social presence theory, and then community of inquiry framework, really extremely relevant to that research question. And then trends in research on fostering group cohesion and interpersonal relationships. Again, look how specific the outline that has been created is, and it's vastly different than if you just put your initial broad topic and asked for an outline. And then key findings from empirical studies. Again, be careful with this. Remember, it's not the latest up-to-date information. And always remember that these are just guidelines. You'd still go and do the research, the reading, but at least you have a very clear direction. So as if someone's guiding you into, okay, look into this next, and then look into this field next, and then gaps, look at the debates. So I'm conscious of what specific debate, future directions as well, and then some conclusions. Okay, so we've tackled the section on, now got a really strong, specific outline. So what do we do next? Our outline. And the last prompt that I want to share with you today is just something that's going to help guide you as you're working through the outline, which is this prompt over here. I'm sure so many people have had feedback on their literature review that says, the supervisors come back and say, it's really descriptive. You're just stating study after study after study. Where is the critical analysis? Yeah, so I'm just going to copy the last one. And again, just add it to ChatGPT, and let's just quickly go through it. So here it says, can you add tips throughout the outline to show the theoretical development, focusing on identifying knowledge gaps and providing suggestions to make each section focus on critically analyzing the literature and not just on a the descriptive explanation. Okay, so we're just going to feed that into it. Okay, and so what we're getting here is the outline again, but this time with tips in each section that hopefully should guide the review as you write it. So let's just look at some of the examples that it's given. So for the introduction, we have background of online collaborative learning in higher education. And here it's given us a tip, provide a critical analysis of the historical development, highlighting key theoretical frameworks and so on. Significance of group cohesion and interpersonal relationships. Critically examine the theoretical significance of group cohesion, interpersonal relationships, and in collaborative learning. Remember, this is just the introduction, so just be very brief here. Research question and purpose. Clearly articulate the research question and objectives, emphasizing the need to identify knowledge gaps and provide recommendations. So it might sound a bit generic, but it will get better as we look at the specific sections. So for example, in one of the theories, social presence theory says critically evaluate the key concepts and propositions of social presence theory. Okay, discussing the strength, limitations, empirical support. So that will help guide you as you're talking about this theory in general. Identify the gaps in the application of social presence to online collaborative learning environments. Again, so you might not really be focusing on this while you're writing your review, and this will just bring you back to it. So you say, okay, while I'm writing this theory, let me just look at the gaps and how do they relate to the overall topic. Analyze the theoretical underpinnings of the community of inquiry framework and its application. Critically assess the empirical studies using this framework and identify where further research is needed to address the gaps. Okay. In the next one, it says discuss different group development theories and their relevance. Critically evaluate the applicability of these theories in digital environments. So you can see it gives you some suggestions in terms of what should I be looking at to be a bit more critical in my analysis. So I think it's a good guide. It's a good way to not just have an outline, but also have some suggestions that will help you get through it. Okay, so the want to do is look at the 5 key tips that we used in this video when prompting ChatGPT for research. And the first one was starting a new chat for each topic. And remember, we do that so that we can maintain all our information. And if we understand how the AI model works, is that it reads and focuses on what's in that chat. So you want to keep all your information. Number 2 is build on the information provided and get specific by using like different research questions. For example, we said after the first 5 questions, we specifically chose a research question and then instructed ChatGPT to use one of them. And then we started focusing on asking specific questions related to that research question. So that's something that you can do as well. Number 3 is assign it a role. You may have used this before with other topics, but you can say, for example, as an expert academic researcher in the field of, and then add your own topic. And that really makes it think or extract information as if it's an expert. And then number 4, add additional specific information to the chat. So if you remember, we also looked at systematic literature reviews. We found some recent studies. We copied some information, especially on future directions and gaps, and we pasted it into the chat so it can help it use more advanced and recent information when it's coming up with its responses. And 5, instruct ChatGPT to use all of the above or a specific part of the response. For example, I can tell it, focusing only on the section of research questions, find me literature that supports that. Okay. The last part that we want to go through is the step-by-step prompting guide. And number 1, we started with the initial exploration of the topic and we used the first 4 prompts for the initial exploration. Number 2, we then went on to add in some specific studies and things like we found some systematic literature reviews, you can find conclusions, you can add in analyses, you can add in the findings or future directions depending on what is relevant to your topic. And that just really helps to supplement ChatGPT's knowledge and guide it in the right direction as well. Number 3, we then generated the research questions and then we narrowed them down further so we can try and get a really good specific topic. 4, we focused on the specific literature and theories for that research question, looking at disagreements, gaps, controversies, findings, and conclusions. And then number 5, we used all that previous information to generate the outlines a more specific, extensive outline that is really focused on our research question. And number 6, we added some extra tips to keep the review critical and to guide us as we're writing the review. So I hope you found this video useful, and remember, there's a lot of work that needs to be done from your side. This is just a guide that will help to spur your ideas, to come up with some good information on the topic. Remember to subscribe so that you can join us in the next video where we talk about the prompting for research part 2, and in this we'll go into detailed prompts for the various other sections, including the literature review as well, but also the methodologies and specific ways in how to organize your writing. Let me know in the comments if there are any other parts that you're struggling with and you'd like to see in the next video.